The individual who remains on your mind truly does care about you in a deep and meaningful way. However, the real reason for the distance between the two of you may be very different from what you have imagined. This message reaches into that quiet space that exists between two people who sense something powerful, yet struggle to put it into words. When a particular person stays in your thoughts constantly, not just from time to time or by coincidence, but again and again, there is often a reason that reaches beyond simple chance. And if a certain distance has developed between you, whether it appears as emotional separation, physical absence, or complete silence, then it is important to understand something. The space you notice is not necessarily what it seems on the surface. One of the most important truths is that the person who occupies your thoughts genuinely loves you in their own way. This love may not appear through grand gestures, dramatic confessions, or endless messages. Instead, it exists in a quieter, steadier, and sometimes more difficult form. This is not someone who has forgotten you or moved on without looking back. They carry small pieces of you throughout their daily life. They remember the little details of your voice, your expressions, your energy, and the sense of comfort or openness you brought into their world. These memories stay close to them because those moments touch them more deeply than they may ever admit. So why does the distance exist? Love does not always pull people closer immediately. Sometimes it causes them to pause, retreat, and reflect before they can fully open their hearts. Deep affection can awaken fear just as easily as it awakens courage. When someone truly cares about another person, they suddenly become aware of their own vulnerabilities, potential losses, and the parts of themselves that may not feel ready for such a connection. You affect more than just their emotions. You touch hidden insecurities, old wounds, past disappointments, and fears they may have carried for years. That kind of impact can feel overwhelming. Love often acts like a mirror, showing people parts of themselves they would rather avoid. In some situations, those insecurities cause a person to step back, even while their feelings remain genuine and unchanged. It is important to understand that distance does not automatically mean lack of interest or absence of care. The silence often reflects an internal struggle as they attempt to process emotions that feel bigger than simple conversations can explain. They may want to stay close, speak openly, and reveal what is in their heart, yet uncertainty and self-doubt continue to hold them back. Their mind may be filled with questions. Are they enough? Could they disappoint you? Might their love eventually bring pain instead of happiness? These thoughts weigh heavily on someone who genuinely cares. Pulling away becomes the only way they know how to manage that pressure. Sometimes, deep love feels like an enormous responsibility. The stronger the feelings become, the stronger the desire to protect both themselves and the person they care about from rejection, heartbreak, or disappointment. Because of this, the distance becomes a form of self-protection. They do not want to lose you, yet they fear they may not be capable of loving you in the way they believe you deserve. This is not always something they can explain clearly. In many cases, they struggle to fully understand it themselves. They exist between two opposing desires. One part of them longs for closeness, while another part feels compelled to retreat. The space they create is sometimes the only method they know for coping with these conflicting emotions. Every action, and even every lack of action, carries meaning in situations like this. When someone withdraws, it does not necessarily mean their heart is empty. Quite often it means their heart feels too full and needs room to process everything happening inside. Their affection continues quietly beneath the surface. They think of you during ordinary moments. They remember small acts of kindness. They replay conversations in their mind and reflect on the impact your presence has had on their life. These experiences matter more than you may realize. Although it may appear as distance from the outside, the intensity of their feelings often runs too deep for ordinary words or consistent contact. Their care exists within the pauses, the silence, and the invisible threads that continue connecting their thoughts to yours. Understanding a situation like this requires patience and the ability to recognize love not only through visible actions, but also through restraint and silence. It is a complicated form of affection that challenges both people because it rarely follows a simple path. This kind of connection asks for empathy, compassion, and a willingness to look beyond appearances. You may feel confused, hurt, or uncertain because of the gap between you. Yet the person occupying your thoughts may be much closer emotionally than you realize. Their feelings do not disappear during periods of silence. In many ways, those feelings continue growing beneath the surface. Ultimately, the distance between you says very little about your worth and everything about the complexity of human emotions. Deep affection and personal fear can exist together. Strong feelings do not always create immediate action. Sometimes they create hesitation instead. When you begin to see what lies underneath the silence, you start to understand a deeper side of love. Love is not always loud. It does not always announce itself through constant attention or obvious gestures. Sometimes it grows through quiet longing, unspoken care, and the invisible bond that remains even while two people stand apart. The next time you notice the distance, remember that absence does not always mean disinterest. Sometimes it reflects a heart that is carrying more than it knows how to express. The gap does not represent complete absence. Instead, it often represents a presence being held carefully inside someone who is still working through personal fears, doubts, and emotional challenges. Their affection remains steady, even if it is not openly visible. It may not be simple, it may not be loud, yet it remains consistent, quietly powerful, and deeply sincere. This situation exists not because you did something wrong, but because you awakened feelings within them that arrived with unexpected intensity. The emotions became larger than what they felt prepared to handle. The distance you see is not necessarily rejection. It acts more like a protective barrier around emotions they are still trying to understand. What makes this especially surprising is that the space may exist because they care deeply rather than because they care too little. One of the hidden fears behind their silence is the realization that getting closer could cause them to fall much deeper into their feelings than they anticipated. Vulnerability feels risky to them. Opening their heart completely feels uncertain. They worry about losing control over emotions they have spent a long time managing. Rather than taking that emotional risk immediately, they choose quietness and distance. Not because they want to hurt you, but because they are trying to protect themselves from potential pain, rejection, or disappointment. Their distance becomes a kind of shield. In their mind, you deserve someone stronger, more stable, more confident, and more complete than they currently believe themselves to be. One of the most difficult truths is the way they compare themselves to you. They notice your emotional depth, your kindness, your openness, and your ability to care sincerely. Instead of feeling inspired by those qualities, they sometimes become intimidated by them. Rather than stepping forward, they step back. They convince themselves they may not be able to make you happy. They tell themselves they need more time, more healing, or more certainty before they can offer you what they believe you deserve. As a result, the distance becomes a complicated expression of care that affects both of you. While you wonder about the silence, an invisible struggle continues inside their mind. They repeatedly think about reaching out and then stopping themselves. They imagine conversations that never happen. They question whether they are capable of meeting expectations or avoiding mistakes that could cause pain. From the outside, their silence may seem calm. Inside, however, it is filled with noise. They revisit memories of you repeatedly. They analyze conversations, expressions, smiles, and moments of connection. Even when they attempt to move their attention elsewhere, their thoughts often return to the same place. Again and again, they compare their perceived shortcomings to the qualities they see in you. More often than not, they feel they fall short. You may assume they are indifferent. The reality can be very different. Their emotions may be so strong that they become immobilized by them. They experience opposite forces at the same time. They want closeness, yet fear it. They desire connection, yet worry about failing. The stronger the attraction becomes, the stronger the fear can grow alongside it. That is why they sometimes move away from the very thing they want most. Every decision to maintain distance carries its own internal conflict. Their heart continues feeling deeply behind the walls they have built around themselves. Even if you cannot see it directly, those emotions remain active beneath the surface. They constantly evaluate risks and search for ways to avoid hurting either of you. Their affection reveals itself through quiet moments, delayed actions, and unspoken thoughts. Every pause reflects a battle taking place within. These are struggles that no one else can resolve for them. Although you may feel abandoned at times, they often withdraw because their emotions feel too heavy to carry openly. They are trying to navigate a complicated mixture of hope, fear, longing, and uncertainty, while protecting themselves from outcomes they are not sure they can handle. They fear losing themselves inside the relationship. They fear not measuring up to someone they admire deeply. They fear disappointing a person they genuinely care about. Despite the silence and the distance, one truth remains unchanged. Their feelings run deep. They care more than they comfortably know how to express. And even while they continue working through their fears, doubts, and inner conflicts, the affection they hold for you remains present, steady, and very real. They want to remain present in your life, yet they continue to find themselves caught between genuine affection and lingering uncertainty. Their silence is not a sign that love is missing. Instead, it reflects love mixed with hesitation, caution, and an ongoing inner struggle. They try to balance their emotions with the realities of everyday life. At the same time, they think carefully about how they might fit into your world without creating disruption or pain. Their heart remains active through private thoughts, unspoken feelings, and quiet dreams of peaceful moments shared together. They hold on in their own way, even if it does not resemble the usual outward signs of affection that most people recognize. One day, when circumstances feel safer and their worries begin to settle, they may find the courage to move closer again. If that happens, it will not be because they forgot you and suddenly remembered. It will happen because sincere care rarely disappears completely when it has been felt deeply. Until that moment arrives, the distance reflects their personal struggles and serves as quiet evidence of the feelings they continue to carry within. They miss you in ways they seldom reveal to anyone. One difficult truth many people avoid is that love without healing often creates separation. Affection by itself is not always enough when someone is still carrying wounds from the past. Old experiences involving trust, independence, disappointment, or commitment can make new closeness feel intimidating instead of comforting. Your openness and emotional presence create a level of responsibility that sometimes feels overwhelming to them. Because of that, they create distance, not because they care too little, but because they care in a way that unsettles them. They do not completely trust their ability to remain emotionally steady or to protect your heart in the way they believe it deserves. That realization scares them because they can sense the depth of your feelings and the sincerity of your intentions. In their mind, creating space feels safer than risking emotional damage. Now consider your side of this experience and why your thoughts keep returning to them so often. Emotional connections do not simply disappear when communication stops. Your inner awareness recognized something unfinished. There were feelings left unsaid, conversations that never happened, and a connection that never fully reached its potential. Your mind returns to them because some part of the experience still feels unresolved. It feels paused rather than completed. When situations end without clarity, the heart often continues searching for understanding. Memories, possibilities, and unanswered questions begin moving in circles. You replay moments together. You imagine different outcomes. You revisit conversations and search for meaning inside the silence. This goes beyond ordinary nostalgia because it involves emotional energy that never found full expression. Even when you attempt to move forward, your thoughts continue seeking a sense of completion. This does not indicate weakness. Instead, it demonstrates the significance of the bond you experienced. Your heart is still processing something that mattered deeply. Emotional cycles often appear when love is interrupted before it has a chance to fully unfold. The connection leaves a lasting impression that quietly reminds you of both cherished memories and future possibilities that never had the chance to become reality. You may sometimes become frustrated with yourself for thinking about them so frequently. Yet this response is completely natural. Your heart and mind are working together to understand something your deeper self recognized as meaningful, even if outside circumstances prevented it from developing further. Distance does not erase love. In many cases, it simply postpones its resolution. Understanding this can bring a sense of peace, because recurring thoughts are not proof of failure or inability to move on. They simply show that the experience carried genuine significance and continues to influence your emotional world. Real connections often exist beyond physical presence. They continue shaping thoughts, feelings, and personal growth, even when communication becomes rare or disappears entirely. Every quiet period and every stretch of distance can hold a purpose, even when that purpose is not immediately obvious. Sometimes, separation teaches patience. Sometimes it develops resilience, self-awareness, and emotional maturity. It encourages you to observe your own heart more closely and understand what truly matters to you. Your thoughts return not because you are trapped, but because some deeper part of you understands that meaningful love rarely follows a perfectly straight path. Timing, healing, readiness, and personal growth often play larger roles than people expect. The connection between you still carries emotional energy that does not disappear easily. It waits quietly, asking for understanding, acceptance, and occasionally forgiveness from everyone involved. During this period of waiting, you learn that love can still hold meaning, even when it lacks complete closure. It leaves impressions that influence future choices, strengthen emotional wisdom, and help you better understand yourself. Each returning memory becomes part of your growth. Your heart continues processing, your mind continues balancing, your soul continues recognizing the difference between genuine care and fear-driven distance. This experience teaches that silence can become its own language. It reveals that distance may sometimes conceal affection beneath the appearance of withdrawal. Even when it is difficult to see clearly, the connection can remain present beneath the surface. One day, when healing progresses and circumstances align naturally, the paused energy between you may begin moving forward again with greater understanding and emotional maturity. Until then, your patience, self-awareness, and willingness to feel without forcing outcomes become valuable lessons. Every unanswered question and every memory that returns to your thoughts serves as evidence of the depth of what you experienced. They reflect the lasting strength of a bond that left a meaningful mark on your life. Love can remain alive even when it becomes quiet. They think about you during unexpected moments, late at night, during ordinary routines, or whenever something small reminds them of the connection you shared. They wonder how you are doing. They consider what might have happened if they had acted differently or found more courage when it mattered. Yet fear often prevents action and creates a kind of emotional paralysis despite their wishes. They replay past interactions repeatedly. They imagine different conversations, different choices, and different outcomes. For now, however, hesitation continues to outweigh action. One surprising aspect of this distance is that the connection itself has the power to change them in significant ways. Real transformation can feel intimidating. You bring attention to parts of themselves they were not fully prepared to confront. As a result, they step back and pause the process. The distance functions more like a period of internal reflection than an absence of feeling. They need time to understand what the connection has awakened within them. Trying to force answers or closure usually creates more pressure and increases existing fears. Some realizations can only emerge when inner calm returns and healing unfolds naturally over time. Patience and space often allow understanding to develop more effectively than pressure ever could. None of this means you are difficult to love or that your expectations were unreasonable. It simply means you connected with someone who cared deeply but was not fully prepared to meet you at the same emotional level. That reality does not reduce your worth or suggest failure on your part. It highlights how timing and personal readiness frequently shape relationships just as much as feelings do. You shared something meaningful, even if it included silence, pauses, and uncertainty. The experience left a lasting impact on both of you. Distance and quiet do not erase what existed. Instead, they reflect personal growth that still needs to happen. Love does not always end when it becomes less visible. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it develops quietly in the background. Sometimes it grows stronger while remaining unseen until both people become ready. The influence of your shared experiences remains with you. It shapes how you understand love, care for others, and navigate future relationships. It teaches patience, self-compassion, and the ability to respect another person's struggles without abandoning your own needs. You begin to understand that genuine love includes respect for hidden battles, even when those battles reveal themselves through silence rather than words. The deepest forms of affection can sometimes hide behind hesitation, yet still remain sincere. At the same time, you deserve a connection that meets you with equal commitment, consistency, and emotional availability. The distance and uncertainty may simply be one chapter within a much larger story involving healing, timing, and personal growth. Every emotion you felt and every memory you continue to carry proves that the connection mattered. It taught you something about your own capacity to love deeply and sincerely. These lessons will help create healthier and more balanced relationships in the future, whether they involve this person or someone entirely new. Honor your feelings. Allow yourself room to grow. Respect the process unfolding within both hearts. Understand that distance does not always remove love. Sometimes it reshapes it into something wiser, deeper, and more mature. The connection continues to live within your experiences and guides your journey toward greater emotional understanding. Love does not always require constant closeness. At times, it asks for space, reflection, healing, and personal development. Not every connection remains in its original form. Some exist primarily to teach valuable lessons about self-worth, emotional depth, and resilience. If they return someday, it may happen with greater awareness, stronger emotional stability, and the courage that healing often brings. Until then, the distance continues serving its purpose within a much larger journey. Stop blaming yourself for another person's unresolved struggles. Stop shrinking your own needs in an attempt to make their fears more comfortable. If the care is genuine and lasting, they will eventually meet you fully instead of offering only fragments of themselves. If that never happens, then the distance may be guiding you towards someone capable of matching your emotional depth with consistency and confidence. A person can feel profound affection for you and still feel unprepared to remain close. That truth may be difficult to accept, but it does not diminish your value. Instead, it points you toward the kind of love that grows steadily without needing separation as a form of survival. Your heart deserves care that honors its ability to love openly without living in constant uncertainty. The quiet reflections and difficult moments are not wasted. They are preparing you for relationships that feel balanced, secure, and fulfilling. These insights about the heart and mind can bring clarity when emotions become confusing. Understanding the deeper patterns behind connection allows you to move through relationships with greater awareness, wisdom, and kindness toward yourself. Love may sometimes appear quiet. It may sometimes seem distant. Yet genuine experiences rarely lose their meaning completely. Every part of this journey contributes to your understanding of the kind of affection that endures, grows, and truly lasts.